gentlemen. We are back. We have our next guest with us this evening, and we're definitely honored and privileged to have him join us today. This is one of them guys that, I wish had a huge impact in the boxing game, whether it was on commentating, whether it's training, promoting. And I want to find out, because when he was fighting, he was one of my favorite fighters, a former world light heavyweight champion. One of, Rufus will tell you like this, man. This guy had one heck of a punch. He was known as the Golden Boy, the original Golden Boy, in my opinion. And without further ado, all the way from Costa Rica right now, Golden Boy Donny Lalonde. Champ, how you doing tonight? Thanks for joining us on ATG Radio.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Doing great. Everything's awesome. Thank you.
Donny, look, man, you're in Costa Rica. It's a nice island. It's a pleasure place for people. I'm assuming you went there to seek, enjoyment post-boxing career. I got to ask you, during the introduction, the one thing is a lot of people, ask, hey, where is he? Where's Donny Lalonde at? He's in Costa Rica, but what is he in Costa Rica doing these days? That's the question I have first.
Well, I developed real estate. The only time I didn't in my life is when I was fighting for the whole 80s, because I was too busy with boxing. But so I developed real estate now. I'm down in Costa Rica, and it's a Central American country that is basically a hub of peace and tranquility, and it is offering foreigners, North Americans and Europeans, people an opportunity of somewhere to go to retire and maybe spend the last 20, 30, 40 years of their life in a little bit of a different environment than we have at home.
I got to ask you too. You're one of during your time, you're one of the most popular boxers. You're most known for your battle, and I remember your fight with Sugar Ray Leonard. You were whooping his butt up until the Sugar Ray Leonard came back and did what he did. But former world champion, fought for the first ever super middleweight championship. Last fight was against Virgil Hill. Rufus and I were actually just talking about that fight a couple days ago. What a sensational fight that was. What made you, hang him up when you did, and just basically leave boxing altogether?
Well, I actually retired. I should have retired a week before the fight. I injured my eye in training a week before the fight. My last day of sparring, last round of sparring, I got a very serious cut. My eye swelled shut, and I damaged my eyeball. A muscle or a nerve in my eye was damaged from the punch. I was promoting the fight, and I was fighting Virgil Hill, who I'd wanted to my whole career. So I thought, well, even with one eye, I'd rather just go out trying rather than cancel the fight a week before and not even do it. So I shouldn't say foolishly, but I entered the ring basically with one eye and the other eye very badly damaged. And, I had just healed the cut within a day or two before the fight started. So it was really crazy to get into a fight a week after a bad cut, swollen shut, and then a career-ending injury to my eye. So that fight was kind of funny because I couldn't really see Virgil. I saw just a trail of him whenever he moved. And I couldn't tell whether he was a foot in front of me or a yard away from me. So the whole time it looks like if you look at that fight, I'm trying to find him, and I was. I thought going in, well, I can punch. Virgil's a little older, maybe I can hurt him, So I just kept sort of that focus, stay close to him and try and land the right punch. And in the seventh round, I hit him and hurt him really badly. After the fight, he said to me, Donny, what happened in the seventh round? Why didn't you finish me? He said, anything you'd done would have finished it. I was just out on my feet. I didn't even know my own name. I said, Virg, I couldn't see you the whole fight. That's why I knew I hurt you, but I couldn't find you to hit you again. And then I explained to him what happened. So the last fight of my career was, the reason I retired ultimately was because of the injury I sustained just before that fight.
Well, I've seen recent, videos and photos of you, man. You look great. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't look like you've been in the wars that you've been in. Donny, I want to pass you over to the man I was actually talking about the Virgil Hill fight with, and that's Rufus F. about. Rufus.
Yeah, how you doing, Mr. Hill?
This is Donny.
Yeah, I'm
Mr. Hill. He took a couple punches in his day, Donnie. He's a pro fighter himself.
I'm punchy too. I'm sorry. But I want to say, my couple of questions I got. You fought Sugar Ray Leonard in 1988, but you didn't come back till 1991, and you fought till 92, culminating in a fight with Bobby Ches, and then you disappeared for another 4 years. You fought in 96 through 98, and then you disappeared again, didn't come back till 2002. I mean, why did you constantly keep retiring, like that, all this inactivity?
Well, mainly, I guess, because I was only fighting really just for entertainment. I mean, I retired after I had my larynx crushed in the Leonard fight, and then it didn't make any sense for me to fight anymore after that. But like the rest of us crazy fighters, I couldn't stay away, so I came back, as you mentioned, in 91. And then after the loss to Ches, I just lost focus. I was developing real estate. At that point, I had a 1 and a 3-year-old. I was very busy with my family life. I was just doing other things. And then I, of course, missed the game, so went back. And the next time around, I went back, and the idea was I was having conversations through Aram with Tommy Hearns and trying to get a Hearns fight put together. So I had a few fights to try and sort of get ready for that. And I was working with Interbox, the company that out of Montreal. They're well known now, but back then they were a startup. And being that close to it, I got itchy feet and got back in there again until the Kevin Pompey fight, which, we all have a reason why things happen, but, I was in a bad car accident on the way to that fight in New York, and I was in shock when I was in the dressing room, and the commission told me to go into the fight, and I said, hey, guys, I'm, shaking still from an accident. Can I just go on later? There's 9 fights. And they said, if you don't go directly to the ring now, you will be suspended in New York. Foolishly, I went in, and I don't even remember that fight at all. But so that happened, and I was again focused on helping Interbox, but also had my family to deal with and life, and so I just lost focus again, and then came back again, just like any other fighter. Why do you come and go? Because we miss it, basically. I've had so many career-ending injuries. I should have stopped fighting in the early '80s, but I just kept finding an excuse to get back in there. With this eye injury, there's no way I can even think of it. So that's the only reason I'm not fighting now.
Now, another quick question I got, is you had power that carried from 170 pounds, like 160 pounds all the way up to damn near 200 pounds. How was you able to develop this great punching power that carried over for such a long time?
Well, I really didn't have a choice. Early in my career, I tore my rotator cuff. Well, actually, before boxing, I tore my rotator cuff in hockey. Then I tore it boxing enough times. And so I really had very limited mobility in my left shoulder after the surgeries actually seemed to limit them even more. So I had to really focus on my right hand. And it's really funny because, I broke my right hand in my 5th fight, and actually, shattered the second metacarpal, which is your index finger. And then I wasn't fixed properly for a boxer's career because the doctor didn't really believe in boxing. He thought, don't worry about it, you should quit this stupid game anyway. And he didn't fix it properly, so my next fight, it shattered it again. So my whole career, I had really, really limited mobility in my left shoulder and a very, very delicate, damaged right hand, always injured. So I had to find a way to stay in the ring effectively, and I had to create something that made an equalizer. And so my whole focus was on the punching power of my right hand because I had to be so careful when I landed it because of the damage that would happen when I landed a right hand, that I had to land with precision to the chin or the side of the head, somewhere not as hard, like the skull to hurt it. So actually, as they say, turning lemons into lemonade, I turned a very limited option into what ended up being a pretty dynamic force.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lalonde.
Hey, Donny, it's Chris Guns. How you doing?
Hey, Chris. Very good. How you doing?
Pretty good. I talked to you a few months ago, and I remember there's so many things that you could talk about with you. There was, and Rufus just brought this up, that you would always retire and unretire and stuff like that. I remember one time you were scheduled to fight Dennis Andrews, and you retired. Right. The fight happened, and you said that the reason was you didn't like to hurt people anymore. Do you think that being abused as a child by your stepfather kind of contributed to your dilemma of hurting people and having to hurt?
I started boxing as a young person who had a lot of internal demons to work out from my childhood. And until I accomplished my goals, my 3 goals I set for myself in boxing was A, to be a world champion, B, to become financially independent from boxing. We were very poor when I grew up. And then C, to hopefully meet the girl of my dreams, because I didn't feel worthy of meeting a dynamic woman at that point, and I felt maybe boxing would give me the confidence and them the attraction. After the Leonard fight, I had accomplished all of that. And I had a very serious injury in the Leonard fight, which was my larynx. Was crushed. That's how the fight actually ended. If you watch it in the very end, the punch that ended the fight was a punch to the larynx, and that's what happened. So for me, getting back into the ring after the Leonard fight was challenging on a number of different levels. One is physically I should never have been in there because of my throat. Secondly, like I said, I always worked on the refinement of my punching power. And before when I was trying to become champion, and it was like my lifelong dream, and I would rather die than not do it, it didn't bother me when I would hit people and they would fall down or they would show signs of being hurt. It was kind of like, okay, yep, that's what I need to do. I'm working on, I'm getting better. This is what I need to do. But after I had fulfilled my goals, in the gym a couple times, I nailed people with really crisp right hands, and like they collapsed with their eyes rolling back and unconscious for times, and it just didn't feel the same to me. I just didn't have that same need to accomplish something, and therefore I didn't have the same burning desire and lack of sensitivity to the impact that my punches were having on people. Afterwards, when my other comebacks after that, I felt, in my mid-30s and on, I think everything's fair game at this point because everybody else is younger and stronger and faster. So I didn't feel like I didn't have a problem with that philosophically after that, because I felt, the deck was stacked enough against me being as old as I was. I don't know. It was one of these internal things that roll around in your head your whole life, and at that time, I just decided to get out of the game.
Mm-hmm. And do you continue to help kids who were abused? Do you do anything for kids now, or do you just stay busy with your family? Yeah,
the last 10 years, I had some a financial setback in Canada when in the late 90s there was a big shift in the economics up there. And I'm in real estate, and I got kind of caught, exposed with some loans and stuff, and I ended up losing everything. So I came back to Costa Rica. I came here to Costa Rica, with some serious soul searching to do, because I was 40 years old and I had no education other than boxing. And I have grade 9 other than that. And so I had to think about, reinventing myself. One thing I did was the real estate development thing, and then the other thing was I made another comeback. That was the Hill fight. So, I've separated, by being down here in Costa Rica, I've removed myself from a lot of the world I had created up there, speaking on the behalf of the children and doing the things, because I had my own challenges in my own life to deal with, and my children and my teenage children and a marriage, which has lasted 21 years, but as we all know, it's not easy. So really I just lost focus of outside of my personal life aspects of life. And now my kids are grown, they're on their own. I'm still very entrapped because I'm in real estate development and the market is so bad, the economy is so bad, I'm kind of like stuck with a number of projects I'm still trying to fix and work out and finish. When this is done, I'm hoping in like 5 years, I would like to be able to get back in the game and help kids as well as build a gym and train guys, or at least have that there to train some people to train people. And I don't know, I could get involved I've been looking at it. That's why I started the TKOOO initiative, taking care of our own, trying to do what I can do until I can actually physically get back in the game.
I appreciate your time, Donny. There's so many things I could have asked you about, and that just happens to be what came to mind first. So thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Hey, Mr. Lalonde, this is Ali Vasquez. How you doing?
Very well. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. I know around 1985, you and Teddy Atlas made a team. He became your trainer, and you guys found a lot of success. I think that you were 7 or 8 fights under Teddy. But although you guys had a lot of success, you guys weren't meshing more on a personal level. I just want to know if you could comment on the reasons why you two didn't really get along in camp and the reason for the split.
Teddy, he has a certain style and a certain way about him, and our personalities conflicted from the very beginning. I'm much more of a free spirit. He's much more of a military mentality. And so we had our own struggles all the way through. On a personal level, on a personality level. Secondly, his methods of teaching may work for some people, like let's say Michael Moore, embarrassing him with a cell phone in between rounds, or other fighters that he's worked with. I don't want to say their names because they've confided with me certain things he's done to them. Like one of them, he chased him with a butcher knife, and they would have stabbed him if the guy hadn't turned around. Another one, he was like smacking him, and that kind of stuff doesn't work for me. I'm much more of you can inspire me in many ways, but one way to not inspire me is to be heavy-handed and overbearing, because I lived with that as a young child, and the last thing anybody's going to do is try and be overbearing to me. So Teddy and I just had a personality conflict, and I found myself regressing under his training. So my manager, who was seeing the same things, if you look at my record when I fought under Teddy, I fought 8 fights in that year, but they were all against bums because my manager and I didn't feel I was capable of competing on a higher level with the frame of mind I was in under Teddy. As soon as we left Teddy, I fought Mustafa Hamsho, I fought Eddie Davidson, won a world title, fought Leslie Stewart. The ability was always there. But emotionally, psychologically, Teddy broke me down. And I guess it's probably part of his strategy, and I'm not saying it doesn't work for some, but our relationship just didn't work for me.
And in 2006, he published his autobiography, and in there he revealed that he actually had a murder plan to murder you, because he found out that you were going to make around $6 million in his purse. I think was around $5,600,000. What came to your mind when you actually heard the things that he said about you in his book?
First of all, you just got to think about the state of mind of the person that it's coming from. First of all, he had nothing to do with my winning a world championship or fighting Ray Leonard. That all happened well after I was involved with them. I fought Mustafa Hamsho in 87, middle of 87, won the world. It was almost a year later. So Teddy had nothing to do with me winning a world title, but he had something in his mind where he thought he was the whole reason I did. I was so much better a fighter under Tommy Gallagher and Bobby Cassidy because they built me up. They built on my strengths. They were constantly building me and focusing on positives and it just completely shifted my being. I mean, I went from having many injuries and mentally depressed to being injury-free with the help of a natural body worker kind of guy. But mentally, I was able to let go of a lot of the duress I was carrying, a Teddy psychological approach imposed upon me. So basically, I thought, well, I know Teddy's nuts. I mean, he's literally a marginally sane person. And when I read that, it wasn't overly surprising, but at the same time, it was kind of shocking. I thought, premeditated murder was a crime in America. I guess it's not, because nothing's ever happened to him after admitting doing such a thing. But anyway, it is what it is. What can I do? What can I do or say about it? I feel for him. I mean, I really wish he would come to some terms and peace with himself so he doesn't have to carry around this kind of unnecessary anger.
And my last question to you, Donny, in your fight with Sugar Ray Leonard, it was for 2 titles. It was for the WBC light heavyweight title, which was yours, and it was for the newly created WBC super middleweight title. Now, how did the weigh-in go? Did you have to weigh in the same day for both titles, or was it one day you weighed for the 175-pound limit and the next you weighed for the super middleweight limit? How did that go about?
Well, it was, Ray wanted it to be at 168 so he could have 5 titles instead of 4 because Tommy Hearns already had 4. So, he insisted that the weight class be at 168, which meant we had to weigh 168. And the WBC made an exception to let the title be fought for both weight classes at the time, probably to help Leonard. And so, we ended up fighting at 168. So we only had to weigh in at 168. And we had like a verbal agreement, an honor agreement, that any pounds I came in over 168, there would be $1 million deducted from at the day of the weigh-in, $1 million per pound deducted from my purse. Well, in retrospect, I think it's fairly clear that my trainer was wanting to be very, very sure. He got all his 10% of all $6 million, so he made very sure that I was, let's say, overtrained. I sparred 400 rounds for that fight in training camp, and I came in with my clothes on at the weigh-in at 167, so I actually weighed 163 from 193 when I went into camp. So I definitely went in there very weakened, and I don't know. I think that answers your question.
I just gotta tell you, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I think that you should have still kept your title after the Leonard fight because you didn't have to weigh 175, 168. Thank you, Donny.
Donny, last thing I want to ask you too, and this is another reason why we want to bring you back on the show again in the future. But the last thing I want to ask you is, who are some of the fighters that you look at today, up and around your weight class, 168, 175, that you're impressed with, that you enjoy watching?
Well, Andre Ward is obviously a very, very, very super talent. I don't know that there's a more talented. He's like the Roy Jones or Ray Leonard of our era, of this era right now, I think. He's the one who stands out the most. I mean, I really don't. I think he stands heads above all the rest of them. I mean, I think there's some exciting guys to watch. Butte, obviously. Shimonov, I can't really pronounce that guy's name. I don't really remember how to pronounce his name.
You got Babu.
Yeah, super talented-looking kid. He hasn't had a lot of experience or fought a lot of great fighters, but he really looks good. So, there are some people there that are interesting to watch and worth watching. I find it interesting. I really think that, as much as they talk about the downfall of boxing at the moment, it's really the downfall of boxing in North America, or even only in America, because everywhere else in the world, or a lot of other places in the world, Latin America, Asia, Europe, in Canada, at least in Montreal, which has always been strong, it's very strong all over the place. It's just in America probably because there's no superstars, there's no people dominating a division, no personalities that are captivating. Mayweather has a certain little niche, but not really. He's not a crossover person. And Pacquiao, of course, grabs everybody's attention, but he's from the Philippines. So I think when an American personality comes along and can fight, the fight game in the States will get a lot stronger. And so I don't think Ward has that crossover appeal. I'm not sure I see it out there right now.
I agree. I think a lot of us agree. We talk, sensational fighter, just not that crossover appeal. One more thing, Donnie, you mentioned you have the Taking Care of Our Own, the TKOO organization you have running. Where could boxing fans, our listeners, your fans, get in contact with you, find out more about your initiative?
I have a web page called tkooo.org, and I mean it hasn't moved along much. And I'm waiting for a fellow who's coming in a couple months from Canada to help me set it up. He's going to be here for a month, and we're going to get a lot of work done on it. So people can go there and find out a little bit about what it is. But essentially what it is, as I mentioned earlier, I've always used natural remedies to heal myself, since the medical stuff didn't work for me early in my career, and it almost crippled me to a point of not even being able to continue. So at a very young age, I realized I need to take my health into my own hands and not just count on the medical industry. Since 1981, I've been very, very involved with natural medicine. I used to wear T-shirts in training camps, Heal with Holistic Health, natural medicine, stuff like that. And, of course, the kids became a more relevant platform for me to support once I became champion, so people weren't as well versed in my interests in natural medicine during my reign. But it's been about 20 years that I've been very knowledgeable about natural medicine and healing yourself naturally. I see that, there are a number of initiatives taking place, the WBC with the watches, trying to raise money for fighters that are needing money in their retirement. There are other organizations, Alex Ramos, Ring 8 in New York, or Ring 10. But nobody's dealing with the health issues of the fighters from a natural perspective. And so taking care of our own is about that. There are some products and some modalities that I know for a fact help me very much with my mental health and clarity. And
I'll pay attention to
and I think the same can be. Sorry, guys. I guess somebody's phone's running out of a minute.